7 o'clock. I'm calling today's Monday, March 11th, Planning and Development Committee to order. Would you please call the roll?
St.Charles.
Here.
Both.
Here.
Bankar.
Here.
Muntz.
Here.
Lencioni.
Here.
Jem.
Here.
Trilla.
Here.
Wirball.
Here.
Bessner.
Here.
Weber.
Here.
Thank you very much. We have a couple items for the omnibus vote.
So move. Weber will second.
Motion by Gem, second by Weber. Please call the roll.
St.Charles.
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Bankar.
Yes.
Muntz.
Yes.
Jem.
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes. Thank you, that passes. First item in business is to hear of a recommendation to approve the general amendment to Chapter 1414, Business and Mixed Use District. Take it away.
Thank you. Good evening. Andrew Kaswara has submitted a general amendment application for to add cultural facilities as a special use in the BL or local business district. He has also separately submitted a special use application to permit a motorcycle museum to be established at 1317 East Main Street. That application, which is being considered under a separate agenda item, is contingent upon approval of the general amendment regarding cultural facilities. The Plan Commission reviewed the application on February 21st and unanimously recommended approval. Cultural facilities are permitted in every other commercial zoning district, either outright or as a special use, except for the BL district. So with that, I can turn it over if you guys have any questions.
Any questions or comments? I'm looking for a motion.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved by Wirball, seconded by Petrella. Please call the roll.
St.Charles.
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Bankar.
Yes.
Muntz.
Yes.
Jem.
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes. Okay. And so, B, we have a recommendation to approve an application for a special use for a cultural facility to establish a motorcycle museum for 1317 East Main Street.
Correct. So in regards to the cultural facility, he would like to establish a motorcycle museum and art gallery at 1317 East Main Street. This was formerly the building that stored Honda McGrath automobiles for a while. Before that, it was a Fido land before they moved behind this building. And previous to that, it was a restaurant for Cork and Fork. There are no building changes being proposed in terms of the exterior or site changes being proposed. Everything is going to be interior kind of remodeling to set it up more as a showroom. It will be a museum, so there will be paying guests, visitors. It won't be kind of an indoor storage for just his motorcycles. The Plan Commission held a public hearing for special use on February 21st and unanimously recommended approval. And with that, I can turn it over for any questions.
Any questions?
Move for approval. Weber will second.
Okay, I have a motion by Wirball, a second by Weber. Please call the roll.
St.Charles.
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Bankar.
Yes.
Muntz.
Yes.
Jem.
Yes.
Trilla.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Bessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes. Thank you, that passes. So next we have a recommendation to approve an application for special use for a place of worship for 3809 Illinois Avenue, Promise Church.
Thank you. Reno Muley, pastor of Promise Church, has submitted an application requesting approval of a special use to establish a place of worship at 3809 Illinois Avenue. Services will be held on Sundays from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. The church anticipates 75 parishioners, about 25 families. A shared parking analysis of the business park determined that there will be adequate parking available for the church during this time, and during the week it'll just be used as typical office space like the rest of the units in that building. A special use approval is required to establish a place of worship in the M2 Limited Manufacturing Zoning District, and we do have several of those throughout the city. The Plan Commission held a public hearing regarding the special use on March 5th and unanimously recommended approval. With that, I'll turn it over for any questions.
Thank you. And everything was great with the findings of fact?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Move for approval.
Can I have a question?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Rachel,
Alderperson Weber.
I'm just curious, this property, are they just going to be a tenant, or are they actually buying the property?
They, I believe, are just a tenant, correct? Yes, they are just a tenant, so they'll be leasing the space.
Okay, so it won't become like a tax-exempt property on the tax roll?
I don't believe so.
Okay, thank you. I will second. I think we're alone.
Okay, so where was my motion? Wirball, and second by Weber. So we have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Kulturitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Baumgart.
Yes.
Mudd.
Yes.
Gem.
Yes.
Petrola.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Fessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
Excellent. That passes. So next, we have a recommendation to approve a temporary license agreement between City of St. Charles and Pollyanna Brewing Company, 106 South River Street. Eric, this is yours.
Yes, good evening. One moment, I want to make sure that we get this online. Good evening. So I'll actually be tackling the next 4 items, but the first one here is for the Pollyanna Brewing. So this is a temporary license agreement with the City of St. Charles. This is very similar to agreements that have been passed in 2020, 2021, and 2022, and 2023, so 4 years. And this would be for an outdoor dining patio or seasonal patio, which is just south of the Pollyanna building. So again, you can see the map there of where this is proposed. The number total of seats would be 126 seats. If everyone remembers, we actually amended our outdoor cafes and food carts in public places ordinance back in November, and that was really addressed towards First Street, but it would apply to other businesses, including Pollyanna, in this agreement. So that's where we talked about upping the standards for fencing, tables, umbrellas, all those things apply to Pollyanna. As well as the fee structure. So they're going to be charged the same fee amount that was charged for the First Street businesses, or will be, in this upcoming season. So just a reminder, that is 2 100-day permits with the permit period, or with the permit fee being $125, so $250 total, and then it is $20 per seat per period. There are 2 periods, so you could also say $40 per seat. The estimated fee for this would be $5,000 or $3,500 approximately. This is significantly higher than in the past. Last year, in 2022, we had only charged them about $1,200. And with that, I can take any questions on the Pollyanna agreement.
Do you have questions?
Move for approval.
Second. Motion from Wirball, second from Gem. Please call the roll.
Kulturitis.
Yes.
Folks.
Yes.
Baumgart.
Yes.
Mudd.
Yes.
Gem.
Yes.
Petrola.
Yes.
Wirball.
Yes.
Fessner.
Yes.
Weber.
Yes.
And next, recommendation to approve a temporary closure of Walnut Avenue from April 15th, 2024 through October 31st, 2024.
Yeah, so for the next 3 items, they really should be considered in conjunction. So I'm going to be doing a presentation on all 3 of them, and then allow for presentation and questions, and then move to the vote on all of them.
Okay.
Excuse me,
Hang on, before we
Yeah.
start though, I do, because I know there are a lot of people here that want to talk. We'll be letting people, this is not a public hearing, but because we have a lot of people who do have things to say, we're going to have a limited period that we will be taking comments. So I want everybody to know that as we're going through, for anybody who is intending to speak on that. Now, back to council.
No, I just want to make sure people have an opportunity to.
Absolutely.
Perfect, thank you.
No, we're on the same page. Thank you. Take it away, Eric.
Okay, kind of looking at all 3 of these items in plain English. So temporary closure of Walnut from April 15th to October 31st of this year. That's going to be the first one that's necessary for approval. And then we have a temporary license agreement with Flagship for outdoor dining, and then an Arcata bus parking temporary license agreement as well. So I'll tackle these one at a time. First, starting out with the closure of Walnut. You can see the dates up there. There is precedent for this, so it was closed in 2020, 2021, and 2022. That was a result of the pandemic and trying to help out businesses with outdoor dining. It was not approved in 2023, though. Consideration for the closure of Walnut for this upcoming year was really spurred by a number of the businesses in that southeast quadrant of our downtown. They collectively got together and decided that this would be best for all the businesses if that street was closed and turned into something of a public area. So they're trying to with the approval not occurring in 2023, they wanted to kind of look at this again and try to address some of those needs. So they collectively came as a group and approached the city to see if anything could be done, and this is where we're at with it today. So this is the first one that we're looking at right now is the temporary closure of Walnut. Really, this is just closing the street, and it's going to lay the framework of something that needs to happen for the outdoor dining temporary agreement with Flagship, and then also the bus parking for the Arcata. On top of that, there will be this public area. There's not really an agreement that is necessary to create that public area, but is what staff's intention is what to do with that area. The closure will result in the loss of 6 parking spaces. This doesn't include the bus lane for the Arcata parking, though. So you can kind of see a zoom in of the map here. Essentially, that pink dotted line there, that is the area that would be closed off. That is the same area that was closed off in previous years. It's not any bigger at all, but you can see that it is different. So if you can see at the very top there, you have what is the bus parking lane. I'm going to go through that agreement last. And then at the bottom there, close to the Flagship, you see something labeled seasonal patio. That is where the outdoor dining for exclusive use of Flagship would be. In the middle there, you can now see in the green area, that is what we are calling a public area. So this would not, no one would have exclusive rights to this. This could be someone that is eating at Smitty's and wants to get a sandwich and eat outside. They could take it over to this area and eat. Someone waiting for a show at the Arcata could enjoy this space. As well as someone just riding their bike and wants to take a break. That's kind of the intent of the space. The city would be putting in some furniture into that area, so I do have some examples there of some of the tables and chairs that we would be putting in, and as well as bike racks. One on the bottom right, you can kind of see a photo of one idea that we had of trying to make the spaces a little bit more interesting would be this chessboard, checkerboard table. So obviously people can eat at those tables, but if they wanted to do some type of games on there, they could as well. The public area space is about 2,200 square feet in total. I'm going to move into the next, which is a resolution authorizing mayor and city council to execute a license agreement with the city of St. Charles and C&A Management, better known as Flagship. So you can see on the map there, I just have it a little bit more highlighted, that pink area, that is the seasonal patio area. So this would be the area that would be for the exclusive rights to Flagship for them to do outdoor dining. This is different from when this was last approved in 2022. So in 2022 and the years before that, the outdoor dining was in the middle of the street. This is primarily the sidewalk, although it does dip into the street for about 5 feet. Okay. The total number of seats that are proposed is about 70 seats. The square footage is about 1,300. This is about 500 square feet less than when it was all the way in the middle of the street. Again, similar to Pollyanna, Flagship would be subject to all the city rules and regulations for the outdoor cafe and food carts in public areas, the fencing, the tables, umbrellas, that would all be required. The estimated fee cost for this would be about $3,000. That's significantly higher than what it was in 2022 when this was last approved, which was $628. And then last, the temporary license agreement for the bus parking and loading zone for STC Arcata LLC. This is better known as Frontier Development. So this is really an agreement that should occur regardless if if Walnut is actually closed. Today, the Arcata has shows and they bring in buses. They really don't have an agreement to use any public space right now to park their buses, and we really just want to formalize that, which I think is fair. Arcata is, of course, a great asset and amenity to this city. It brings in hundreds of people for shows and thousands of people over the course of the year, which is great for all the businesses and restaurants, although it does have this consequence of they need buses. So the buses come in with all the equipment for their artists and the artists themselves. So this would be set to expire at the end of the year, on December 31st, 2024. The idea is that this is an agreement that would, at that time, be renewed in year increments. Currently, today, we're not getting anything since there's no agreement for bus parking on this area. So we did come up with a fee of about $450 per year. And this would be for the sole purposes of buses and vehicles associated with Arcata shows. So this is not for private use. You will primarily see buses out there You may see vans or other vehicles from time to time. Sometimes artists do come in on those in cars, and they do need a place to park that is adjacent to the Arcata. And then lastly, this is just kind of sum up. You can see on the right-hand side 3 items that are for consideration, and then just a map of all 4 of these agreements that were for consideration. The blue at the top is the bus parking, the green is the public area, and then the red is the seasonal patio area. You can also see the Pollyanna area as well. Again, this was something that was really driven by some of the businesses in that southeast quadrant that approached staff with this idea, and I believe that they would like to speak if they are given a chance from the chair.
If they're ready, yeah, absolutely. As the people who are making the argument that this is something that we should absolutely do, then I would like to hear from them. And at that point, we'll open up the floor, and we'll hear from the crowd and general statements. I'm telling you that I want to hear from the people who have proposed this idea. Yes.
Hello.
Ben?
My name is Christopher Curran. Myself, my wife Megan Curran own the Graceful Ordinary at 3 East Main Street. I'm here as the de facto representative for the businesses that came together on the southeast quadrant of the river. Those include Pollyanna, Flagship on the Fox, Duke's, the Arcata Theater, the Pep Line, the Lewis, Smitty's on the Corner, Sammy's Bike Shop, Riverview Counseling, and obviously the Graceful Ordinary as well. I was going to prepare statements, but at the end of the day, I think it means more just speaking from the heart. We think as businesses this is more about community than anything else. We can look to other communities all over the country, all over the world, large and small, that do these types of things to improve and make special places for their community to come and gather. I think we have all seen that in the success of this past weekend with the St. Patrick's Day Parade, with the closure of Riverside and Walnut Avenue during Scarecrow Fest, and the closure of Riverside and Walnut Avenue during the Arts Festival. All fantastic community events that bring people together, and our thought process was this is a good idea to create that more of a year-round type atmosphere. And we want to just today say we are in favor of this, and we hope that it's something that the community can enjoy for years to come. Thank you.
Chris, are there other members from your business group that want to speak?
I believe there are, yes.
Okay, so please approach.
Good evening.
State your name for the record, please.
Sorry, thank you. Yes, I am Doug Denz. My wife and I own 111 East Main Street in St. Charles, which is Riverview Counseling. We, unlike some of the other ones on Chris's list, are not restaurant-based or entertainment-based, but we do have clients in 7 days a week. We, as a business, our clients generally are always looking for places to go on the east side. And there really is nothing from a public standpoint that's right around that area that people can go while they're waiting for loved ones, etc., in the waiting room. So that being said, we are absolutely in favor of closing off Walnut to have that public space back there for people to congregate as a community. If you look across the river at First Street Plaza, we're just looking for some cohesion there that people on the east side can also enjoy. And tie everything together. I know during the pandemic when it was closed, we had nothing but positive feedback from our clientele, from our therapists. As a resident, I enjoyed it. But that being said, it was also from a safety standpoint. It was nice not having people whipping around and flying through those corners up and down Riverside and Walnut. So we are very much in favor of that, and I hope that you guys consider it. Thank you.
Was there anybody else, as part of the group, who was an applicant? And I know that you were part of this group, but if you're not speaking to it, that's fine. Okay. Such a hearing. Hey, Ann, would you please tell us who you are for the record?
I'm Ann Smith from Smitty's on the Corner. We've been doing business for 24 years in the community, and I just really feel how we need to really tie the east side and west side together is that we really need to have an area on the east side of town where we can have our customers and have our base be able to come and feel the same thing that has also been, over on the west side. And I really have felt that on the east side we've kind of been neglected in aspects, but I really feel that this is a base that we can start to make it grow and be able to, get both sides evened out and have, the community really built on both sides of the river. And other than that, I don't know what else to say.
And thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
I appreciate that. Associated with the group that's brought this forward, is there anybody else? Because if there's not, I'm going to, offer to hear, comments from the audience. I know there's a lot of people who are interested. Please understand, this isn't a public hearing, but just come on up, one at a time. Approach the microphone if you'd like to speak. Is there anybody who would like to make comment?
Hello, I'm Anita Dickerson. I'm a St. Charles resident and a business owner as well. I'm here to speak in favor of the closure of Walnut Street. My family and I have 3 children, and my husband, we all live here. When we first moved to St. Charles 20 years ago, we purchased a home in downtown area due to proximity of restaurants, bars, shopping, and the river. Over the years, we have watched the downtown area grow into something that we have hoped would happen. The city lit up with more of those amenities that drove us to originally purchase in the downtown area. We no longer had to continuously visit Geneva for a walkable town experience or outdoor dining, and I didn't have to listen to my Geneva friends. I hope to see the City of St. Charles continue projects and make accommodations to increase the walkability, outdoor activities, and outdoor dining experiences we have grown to love, not only for the St. Charles residents, but for surrounding communities that now recognize St. Charles as a true destination. My own family, including many others I know, especially with children, frequent the establishments in downtown St. Charles. There's nothing better than riding your bike or taking a walk on a beautiful day, enjoying lunch or dinner on a patio in one of our amazing St. Charles restaurants. With that said, my family does frequent the restaurants that surround Walnut Street. Flagship, The Office, Pollyanna, Duke's, and the Graceful Ordinary and Schmitty's are all visited by the Dickersons. Closing Walnut would not only enhance the outdoor dining experience with more patios and outdoor activities for all, but it would keep the area safer for pedestrians, especially those with children. The intersection of Walnut and Riverside can become hazardous for those trying to navigate from location to location. The closure of Walnut would allow an easier and safer flow for everyone walking, especially for those that would like to visit more than one establishment. And just to expand on that, the reason I say more than one establishment, and I know I've mentioned this before, is because a lot of people do travel from restaurant to restaurant or bar to bar, obviously not just families, but people that are walking. So if you did close Walnut, it would be easier to go from The Office to Flagship to Pollyanna to the Graceful. We can go all the way down to First Street. And I think kind of what Chris said, that's the idea, right? We're trying to form this sense of community and bonding that we can all kind of enjoy and go through. Sorry, I can't read without these. The intersection of Walnut and Riverside can become hazardous for those trying to navigate from location to location. The closure of Walnut will allow easier and safer flow for everyone walking, especially for those that would like to visit more than one establishment. Walkability of St. Charles is key to keeping all businesses in town thriving and pedestrians safe. I am proud of what St. Charles has become, and I hope that we can continue to make improvements and support not only our residents, but visitors and local businesses as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Greg Taylor, 211 South 3rd
Thanks, Greg.
Avenue. Yeah. I sent you all a letter with several pictures on it. And one thing I want to point out about all of those pictures is all those vehicles that use that section of the street to navigate that southeast section of the town to find parking. You know, if we close that, then all those cars are going to get pushed off onto North Avenue, or they're going to go over to Illinois and Indiana. going to be a big hassle for our visitors now to try to find parking that's already scarce in the area. Regarding the ease of walking and how this will be an improvement, I really don't see how that's going to be the case, because the sidewalk is going to be completely closed next to the flagship. The center area is going to be filled with obstacles. Then you have the bus lane, and then you have the other sidewalk that has a lift on it. So to navigate from west to east or east to west along Walnut, this is only going to make it more difficult, not easier. Regarding outdoor dining, as we know, last year there is an option for outdoor dining already. We don't have to give a street away, give a sidewalk away for outdoor dining. To me, this is intended to benefit truly a singular business. And it's really disrespectful to all the other businesses in town that have paid and used their own money to create their own outdoor dining experiences, patios. I'm talking about Alley, 64, Osteria Truly, Alibi, the filling station, Whiskey Bend, the office. All these people, they use their own money. They're not looking for a handout. And if we approve this, who's going to stop this flow of people saying, I want this street closed too? You know, it's going to disincentivize anybody else to invest in creating their own outdoor dining area. Why should they do that if we're going to give this away? It makes no sense to me. And then we create all this and invite everybody down here to eat and to sit down, and then to leave a section of it adjacent to it that's going to and have buses parking there, trailers parking there, vehicles parking there. It doesn't seem to me to be good policy, and it just opens up the city for future litigation, liability litigation, if an accident happened, or an accident that's truly foreseeable. I can't imagine trying to defend that. To open this up, invite people to sit down, and in a second sentence say, well, we're going to have a bus come in. We're going to have cars come in and park. I mean, it's right up next to it. The other thing I want to say about this being a community event or effort to bring the community together, if the true motive of this was to do that, why wouldn't the group contact our neighborhood? The River Corridor Foundation contacted our neighborhood just a couple months ago when they were looking for an improvement on the bike path that runs adjacent to our neighborhood. And we had some good meetings. We had some heated meetings. We gave them a lot of good feedback, and they took that feedback. And in our mind, improved the project and something that we can all agree upon. The last thing I would like to say about all this is that people in our neighborhood use that street almost daily. And I know you got other letters than just my letter indicating that. We use that street all the time to access Riverside and Main Street. And we do that because that's our best way to go north and to go west. You can't get across North Avenue on any day that has any type of traffic, and goodness, you try to take a left-hand turn there. So you got to go over to that location to exit our neighborhood going west and east. We use it all the time. Closing this would be a benefit for a singular business and put a lot of people in our neighborhood and inconvenience a lot of us. So that's all I have to say. This was defeated last year. I hope that it's defeated again. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joe McMahon. I'm an attorney in Geneva. I live here in St. Charles, but I'm here on behalf of several downtown business owners, specifically the filling station, the office, Whiskey Bend, Alley 64, the Hotel Baker, and McNally's. And I have some prepared comments, but I kind of want to build on what that last speaker said. As I look at the closure on the map up there, it actually encourages foot traffic across roadways. It encourages people to travel across North Avenue, from the north side to the south side to this public space. It encourages people to travel across Riverside down Walnut Avenue to reach that public space, which really is not a public space. It's a space that's designed to benefit a singular business. I want to emphasize, and I started with telling you who I represent, but I want to emphasize that each of these business owners have been generous supporters of the city of St. Charles, of downtown development, and over the years have been respectful competitors of each other. They are not obstructionists in any way, and they have encouraged development across the downtown area. But they don't want you to take action that benefits an individual business to the detriment of others, or tips the scales of competitiveness in favor of one business, specifically Flagship. They've asked me to raise a number of legal issues that we would like you to keep in mind as you consider this and oppose the closure of Walnut Avenue between Riverside and 2nd Avenue. First, I think your planner or someone from staff indicated you're going to lose 6 parking spaces. Parking spaces are already at a premium in the downtown area. Your city code is, and I went through it, and respectfully, it's a little complex, but it requires that when the intensity of the use of a building is increased, and this would certainly increase the intensity of Flagship, it would add to seating right outside their business. Additional parking spaces are required. And so this proposal takes parking spaces away without any accommodation for additional parking spaces that would be required as a result of the intensity of the use. In addition, my understanding is that with anticipated projects getting ready to start over the summer, the downtown area is going to lose about 70 parking spaces due to this anticipated construction. So I would encourage you to preserve as much downtown parking as possible and consider putting this closure, whether you call it a license agreement or a lease agreement, it really is a lease between the city and I know you're talking about allowing it to be used as outdoor space, but this is so closely aligned with one business that it really is a lease agreement between the city and an individual business. But I would encourage you to put off that decision until maybe 2025 when there's not so much pressure on downtown parking area. Second, the closure of Walnut Avenue between Flagship and the back of the Arcata Theater will undoubtedly benefit Flagship. If you're going to enter into a lease agreement with Flagship or its owners, I think there are a number of legal issues for you to consider. First, legal and equity issues. And first, from an equity standpoint, many of the other downtown restaurants and business owners have invested a significant amount of money, some well into the 7 figures, to acquire, to redevelop, and improve both their indoor and, importantly, as it relates to this proposal, their outdoor dining features, and they're required to pay taxes on their outdoor dining space. Providing this space for Flagship at essentially no cost. And I know there's a several $100 fee that you're affixing to it, but that is a very minimal cost. But without any tax obligation is a benefit that the city will be giving to one downtown business to the detriment of every other business that has had to buy and pay taxes on their outdoor dining space on an annual basis for many years. And while you certainly have the right to lease public space to a private entity for private use, but if you do that, the ordinance authorizing that lease must be approved by 3/4 vote as required by state statute. If you choose to utilize real estate in part for private use, even if part of it is for public use, the portion of the improvements devoted to that private use are fully taxable. and the city has an obligation to provide that lease agreement or that license agreement to the Kane County Supervisor of Assessments so he can assess and collect an appropriate amount of tax. So you call this a license agreement, it really is to the benefit of a single business. It's going to encourage foot traffic across highly traveled roads, busy roads. It's going to impact flow of traffic across that area. And you already have a lot of other downtown community space that is available for public use for people to come together, to enhance the community, to build that community connection. And I would encourage you to vote against closing Walnut Avenue between Riverside and 2nd Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Brian Kidder, I live downtown as well. Would this be a proper venue to discuss the special consideration the baker gets when it comes to parking out front, or would that be? So that's for another time.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, if you want to hang out and just do it under general comments at the end of the meeting.
So we could talk about the special treatment that they get there?
You absolutely can bring that comment forward later.
I was just curious.
But right now, we want to stay on just our agenda.
Sovereign immunity would be something I would probably brought up in the past. Thank you for bringing up the idea that more people would be walking from different directions, because the number one thing that creates a walkable downtown is people walking. The number one thing that slows down cars is people walking. People make a walkable area. So if we're going to have people walking across the bridge, great. That's what we want. That will make it walkable. That'll slow down cars. If people are crossing 64, great. That might make somebody think twice about coming that way, and walking along 64 from Alley 64 to the Baker not seem like Death Race 2000, right? So if this puts more people outside, that's going to slow people down, right? We want people outside downtown. That's livability. That's why we live downtown, right? So let's continue talking about this. I hope we pass it. I hope we make more spaces. Lastly, if we are thinking that we have enough green space but not enough parking space, you should check out a 1960s urban planning textbook, because that's what will be in there. But if you look at anything after 1990, they're going to tell you you have too much parking, you don't have enough green space, you can't put cars first every time. And I don't think anyone's going to object to the buses, but I was at a concert at the auditorium, and Chicago lets the buses park on the Congress Plaza, which probably has about 40 or 50,000 cars a day. So if Chicago can allow someone to park a bus on Congress Plaza, which is that roundabout, right off Michigan Avenue, then we certainly should be able to afford a small space on a lightly traveled street. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name.
My name is James Briner. I'm a North student, and I just wanted to vouch my support for what he just said. I think that in a downtown, it should be a lot more important for pedestrians than for cars. And I think that if it means there will be more pedestrian traffic, then it may cause cars to be more cautious and make it so it's more walkable overall. And in response to it only benefiting one business, I think that it could actually benefit all of St. Charles, because a lot of people want more third places and places where they can hang out and stuff. And they want places where they can sort of enjoy the downtown, and that'll cause them to be there longer, meaning that more businesses will receive service. And overall, I think that it would just make the cityscape of St. Charles a lot more walkable and a lot more of a community environment. And I think that is more important than parking, especially considering that a lot of the parking garages right now aren't even full. And I think that wayfinding is way more important than adding more parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on. Say your name one more time for us.
James Briner.
James, thank you very much for being a high school student who cares enough about their community to come and research something and make a great comment. I appreciate it.
Back to follow.
Yeah. State your name for the record.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Patrick Turner. I'm an attorney representing a handful of businesses, in particular Hotel Baker, McNally's Irish Pub, and Jaja's Trattoria. To echo some of the comments that Mr. McMahon had said, I think there's a couple things I'd like to stress, but first and foremost is parking. It's my understanding that the Blue Goose Grocery that's now going to be a Whole Foods, that construction that was going to start in 2024, and that's going to take away a significant amount of parking, along with the adjacent public parking space. It's my understanding that a lot of those spaces will be jeopardized during construction, so that puts a huge premium on parking, and to lose those 6 spaces along Walnut is significant, even though it's only 6 spaces. And to echo some of the other things, this is a wonderful community. This is a very vibrant downtown, and I think that my clients not having a seat at the table to discuss their concerns is kind of wrong. I mean, they should have an opportunity to address the city staff, and I mean, because they do have legitimate concerns. But this closure of Walnut, I think, is obviously going to benefit a singular business. I mean, it's very apparent from even the diagram that you have up here. I mean, there is opportunity for sidewalk cafe. We're talking sidewalk plus street, and it's going to predominantly benefit a singular business. You know, a couple of the other things, well, I'm not quite sure why last year it wasn't approved, but I have an idea. And a couple of other things is what ADA or public accommodations are being considered for this area. I don't think for that. I believe that that hasn't been taken into the equation. I believe there was a parking study, but that parking study does not contemplate some of the parking issues that I mentioned about the Blue Goose and the construction for the Whole Foods. I think again the whole process missed out on some of the other businesses in the downtown area. We keep kind of talking about the southeast quadrant, but there's 3 other quadrants, and there's many other businesses that are going to be affected. I think, with all due respect, my clients should have had a seat at this table to address their concerns, and they simply weren't. They weren't invited. They weren't given an opportunity to address their or voice their concerns, not only address them. I think that we should take a pause, or this committee should take a pause. I think they should take a long look at some of the concerns some of the other businesses have, and I think this should be at least tabled to allow that to occur. I think it's only fair. I mean, this is a community. This is the southeast quadrant. It's a very vibrant quadrant, as the rest of the downtown business district is. But I would strongly encourage that this be tabled to allow those concerns to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Megan Curran. I am the co-owner of the Graceful Ordinary. And Chris already spoke earlier. Obviously, we are in favor of the temporary closure of Walnut, but I just want to again stress, because there have been a few people now that mention that this will only benefit one full business. That is not the case. We support this because we know how valuable walkability is in getting people to your location in your quadrant of the city in order to have visibility. One of the biggest causes for any kind of restaurant or bar closure is lack of visibility. So if you don't have people walking in front of your venue or your spot consistently, it becomes out of mind. So the idea, same that the Business Council has, the St. Charles Business Alliance has, when they bring, you know, the Fine Arts Council, and they bring the St. Patty's Day Parade, and they bring Scarecrow Festival out here, is to get more people walking in front of all these businesses. And that is our intention with it. It's to get people who would want to eat outside and have a Smitty sandwich an area where they can do that, where they can enjoy the summer, enjoy the beautiful Fox River view, and have their sandwich. It's a place where people, and we saw it on the back of our terrace over the summer when we first opened, people would start out on our back terrace, and then they would go over to Flagship, they'd go over to Pollyanna, they'd go over to the office, or they'd start at the office and they'd make their way back around. And when Flagship lost that temporary permit last year, we saw a huge decrease in walkability on our side of the river last summer. Now, First Street Plaza, that's going to benefit all of us too, and this is all we're trying to do is mimic the same thing that's happening with First Street Plaza for those businesses over on this side of the river as well. And while I'm disheartened to hear about the other businesses that aren't happy with this, for any of them that might be here tonight or are listening over Zoom, we would love to sit down and discuss how we can do something similar for them on their side. Because we do believe that something that makes sense in every quadrant, our entire St. Charles downtown area should be walkable for everybody and for all businesses. And most importantly, for our community members, the families that come visit us, the people from out of town who are visiting St. Charles for the first time, they get to walk around and see all the businesses. Someone might be coming for our restaurant, and then by walking around, get to see the office, or Hotel Baker and their Rock City Bar, or Filling Station and see all the action that's outside. Someone might go visit First Street Plaza and see all that action. The whole point, and if you don't see it, you're short-sighted, the whole point is to try and make a thriving downtown community where businesses can be successful and where community members can thrive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
State your name before you start.
My name is Lauren Duddles, and I've been a resident of St. Charles since 2017. Like many others, a big part of what drew my family to move here was the beautiful downtown area. It's also a reason that many people come to visit St. Charles. And of course, St. Charles is at its best when people are gathered together in our public spaces, like we saw on Saturday with the parade, like we see with the Fine Arts Fair, Scarecrow Fest, all of those examples everyone has named already. A vibrant and active downtown is not created by cars, but by people. We need more community spaces in our downtown, not fewer. Walnut Street is a great location for adding more public space to our beautiful downtown with the temporary and hopefully one day permanent closure of Walnut. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Paul McMahon. I also live in the Potawatomi Park area at 3rd Avenue and Chestnut. We've lived walking distance to the Arcata for 40 years. What we know is that First Street Plaza is a business plaza. It's a retail section. This area is a residential area. What Greg talked about is blocking this street for access to this residential area is not a good situation. You're already losing parking spaces as it is. We talked about this last year. It was rejected last year for all good reasons. We know that Flagship has tables on the sidewalk. They can have them on the north side. They can have them on the west side. We know that the park across the street has tables in it. If somebody wants to buy a sandwich at Smitty's, they sit in the park. That's fine. But there already is a bus lane. The red section is already there on the sidewalk. All you're really doing is giving a few more tables that Flagship will pay for. The center section, the green section, is silly because you're calling it a public space when in effect there's a public space across the street in the park. So I'm sure that Flagship will benefit from this, which is different than all the other businesses, including the office and McNally's. So I guess we object and reject this idea that you're going to close a residential street, basically, for the benefit of one business. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more comments? Step forward and state your name.
Curtis Hurst with Frontier Development. I'm not going to rehash everything everybody said. I think it's been said eloquently. What I would say is I just encourage everybody to look at the public record for the last 4 years. I have continuously tried to reach out through different venues and projects that we are getting approved, sharing of the opportunity to how do we make this city better from properties that we own and make them properties that everybody benefits. That was on display last spring. So I would just say that I would take objection to the fact that there's not been a lot of outreach to all of the community businesses in town everywhere, because I've been an open book about it all, about how I want to partner with the city and make this a great city all around. I can't, we were asked, the reason we were, it was not approved last year was because we were asked to bring a temporary plan, which is something similar to this, some form of this, until we could figure out what the permanent use would be. And that's where we are right now. It took us a year to get here. We had many conversations with many of the aldermen, and we had, this is what the result is for that temporary closure until we can figure out what a permanent plan is. And we're all wide open to a conversation about what does that look like for the east side. It does require that the city make an investment, because there has been substantial investment made on this side of the river, privately, just like everything else on the other side of the river. So to say that that's not happening is not true. So I think it's disingenuous from a standpoint of, the businesses on this side of the river do, and that's everybody collectively, do deserve some sort of city investment in this corridor, just so that it can have a similar opportunity that all quadrants have. And I don't disagree with the comments that have been made. Why are we not doing this on all 4 quadrants of the city? We would fully support that, because we see it as a robust, I think James said it as eloquently as we can. Let's get as much pedestrian activity as we can downtown. And I think that's really what we're trying to accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Susie Myers. I've lived on 3rd Avenue in Indiana for 40 years. And I just want to make one point, which I don't think people really think about. The west side of the town is businesses. Your residents are further away from the river. Our side, east side, we're right there. So everything that you do infringes upon our properties and our rights. When I moved here, I could go down 3rd Avenue. Then the Prairie Street Bridge came. Now I can't turn left on Illinois. I only had, and you're going to take away Walnut, so I can't get to Riverside. You need to think about us too.
Thank you very much. Anybody else for public comment? All right, come on up. Get some other
My name's Robert Carter, and I've lived here not forever, but a long time, 45 years probably. I'm at 217 South 3rd Avenue, and I'm retired 12 years from the City of St. Charles Public Works, so it really hits me to give up a street or a road for dining. We did it during the COVID, and that was extreme measures. It was well appreciated, but this is back to normal. And you have people that might have good intentions, but they're buying property and depending on the city to help them change the way the property is from what they initially bought. I really have a problem myself with giving up a street. I don't mind the idea of getting together, but like somebody said, there is a park right across Riverside. I walk every day, or pretty much every day, and I walk from my house, Main Street, down to Mount St. Mary Park and back. And I have never had a problem crossing the street. I mean, you're still going to have Riverside. We do it for special events. I don't see the closure in that time period as a special event. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anybody else for public comment? Not a public hearing, so we're going to close public comment. That being said, Derek, do you want to come back up, or are we going to start addressing the agenda items? You'll be up here soon, I'm sure. So at this point, Alderperson Weber, why don't you start us off? We're going to consider, and we're going to be, since we've dealt with these together, I would like to, as much as possible, focus on the closure of Walnut right now, but this is all going to get kind of blended together, so we'll have leniency between the three agenda items. That being said.
Thank you, Chairperson Lencioni. Derek, question for you. Can you bring us all up to speed regarding the 70 spots that were mentioned that are the city-owned spots, what that time frame looks like, what's going on with that?
Sure. I know this was in the City Council update to City Council. The public may not know this yet, but the Whole Foods is of course still coming. They have submitted plans for interior build-out, demo and build-out, which will start shortly. And then also part of that deal was the city-owned lot. They are going to completely reconstruct it, and they are expected to start that by the end of the month. So that area that's going to be under construction is about 70 parking spaces. We expect the construction to take, 2.5 months, 3 months, somewhere in that neighborhood, depending on how fast they move.
So at some point in June it'll be completed, you're thinking?
That's our best estimate for right now.
And then just one more question. How did you come up with the dollar amount for the bus parking? Because I think there'd be some people in here that would love to just buy 3 spots for the year and be done.
So that was based off of our, what we charge for outdoor dining. They pay $250, I think, for the application fee plus the seats. There are no seats. So it was just a conversion of the $250. But then it would be a year-long agreement. So it will be, of course, more than 250, since the 250 is only for 2 100-day permits.
Okay.
Derek, could you address any of the ADA aspects that were brought up?
Yes. Let me see if I have a little bit of a better map here, visual here. So I think this does the trick, and sorry it's not big enough. What you see here is a plan that has actually been designed by WBK at the cost of the businesses. And this was reviewed several times by our technical staff to ensure multiple things. One of those things is ADA. So I guess I'll start out with, you see the striped area that is going around the seasonal patio for Flagship. That is basically an area that has been marked to maintain ADA access from the sidewalk on the west side to the sidewalk on the east side. You do see a little purple square there. That is an ADA ramp that would get people from the street back onto the sidewalk. This would be very similar to what we have on the First Street Plaza area over there. And then the other concern that has been brought up that is addressed in one of the agreements with the Arcata is that there is this lift that comes down on the sidewalk that sometimes blocks the sidewalk there. We have gotten complaints about that. That should not be the case, so we've discussed with ownership about making sure that stays up when it's not in use. And then there is also some discussion, not an agreement, but some discussion about doing something differently there permanently so that lift can go all the way into the sidewalk if possible, or is basically out of the way of the sidewalk, so that ADA access can be maintained on the north end of Walnut Avenue.
So in a temporary status, we're covered?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Is it my turn? Oh, I'm going to be a while, so. Okay. So I'm going to go real quick with just the bus. At $1.25 per space, that bus is probably bigger than one space, right? It's probably covering about 3 spaces.
So it's not $1.25 per space. That's just the day rate. When you break it down, the 456 divided by 365, it's $1.25.
So they're taking up 3 parking spaces, roughly, right? Is that what they're taking?
Roughly, I guess.
I mean, that seems relatively low, $456 for 3 parking spaces, in my humble opinion. I'm okay with what you have planned there. I just think the dollar amount should be more. Maybe, $1,000 for the year, somewhere around there. That's just my opinion. So as far as the outdoor dining and closing of Walnut. Last year, we did have outdoor dining on the sidewalks, and it worked fine. I had no complaints from residents. I had no complaints from other businesses. To me, it was a success. Second, we have an ordinance that is 12.04.102 that specifically addresses outdoor dining in public places, outdoor cafes and food carts. Under Section E, it says the proposed use shall not unreasonably interfere with pedestrian or vehicular traffic or with access to parked vehicles, and in no event shall the uses permitted by an outdoor cafe permit reduce the open portion of any sidewalk or walkway to less than 5 feet in width. So if you close Walnut Avenue, in theory, right, we are interfering with vehicular traffic and with reducing access to parked vehicles. Second is the recently completed parking study conducted by Desmond Parking Consultants clearly stated in their study, and when I asked them the question point blank on February 12th when they gave a presentation, should any on-street parking in that southeast quadrant be removed unless there are solid alternatives in place? And the answer was no. So I don't think we should be removing any on-street parking in that area until a solid alternative, and what I mean by that is not 6 blocks away, but in the relatively close area. And that can be confirmed by the surveys that were conducted in the Desmond Parking Consultant study. The surveys were very interesting because one of them says the patrons, one of the biggest issues for patrons is distance to destination is a challenge. It's a problem. If it's too far, they get in the car and they leave. They go to Geneva, they go somewhere else. And for businesses, it's distance to destination as well. They hear this from their patrons. And what's even more interesting is that 91% of the people that come to downtown use a car. So the idea of walkability, bikeability is a great thing if we implement it. And we haven't done anything to date that I'm aware of other than I think Fox Chase Boulevard over there. So, and the other thing is we talk about walkability, bikeability. In the study, it does not reference in any way Walnut Avenue as part of that study. So to come in and generalize and say, well, that's going to improve the walkability, bikeability, when you have professional engineers did not note that in the study. I looked it over 3 times. Riverside's a different story for biking and all that. I see that on there. Whole Foods parking lot. So in the city council update, it says from March 25th into the summer, the public parking spaces, all the parking lots are going to be reconstructed, not resurfaced. And then the Blue Goose parking lots or Whole Foods are going to be resurfaced. I anticipate, and I'm not an expert in this, but considering what happened at the plaza, and it's still technically not fully open, I think that's going to go well into the summer, in my humble opinion. And I think we need to be careful with any idea of pushing any sort of east side employee parking over to the west side to utilize parking over there in the deck or any area over there. I think we need to maximize and keep our on-street parking where we're at till we have a better idea where things are falling into place. Once the construction's done, once First Street Plaza is open, business was down 20-30% near the First Street Plaza. La Mesa, Zaza's, all of them said they were way down. So what's going to happen once it opens up? Is that going to bring an additional 20-30% vehicles? I don't know the answer to that, but I don't want to rush and do something that's not really wise at this point. ADA access for that consideration of turning part of Walnut Avenue into a plaza. The 2018 Illinois Accessibility Code. There's a lot of stuff in this code that I was looking through. Of course, I'm not an expert in this. But what I found out is that the First Street Plaza is 100% ADA compliant. I have a hard time believing that the sloping on Walnut Avenue, and slopes a part of it, is going to be compliant. And this needs to be 100% compliant so everyone has accessibility is included to participate. So putting in a wheelchair access and so forth, the sloping is not proper, it doesn't really help them very much. plus the sidewalks that lead into that, I don't believe those, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've been updated yet for wheelchair access, have they? Do they have like the red dots on them for on the corner there? Do they?
I'm not quite sure about that.
On the corner, okay, because I thought they didn't have that on there yet. So I have a lot of questions on this that I think need to be verified before we do anything, because we're a community of equity and inclusion, and if we're going to do part of this and claim that it's complete, I think I got a problem with that. So we need verification on all of that. The residents, their concerns, it's important. Their quality of life is impacted by what we do up here. So every time we close a street, Walnut Avenue, where's the traffic going? It's going up into the neighborhoods. Where's the parking going? It's going up into the neighborhoods. Indiana Avenue is going to be closed permanently. That's a permanent closure. What happens when Indiana Avenue is closed and Walnut Avenue? How does it impact the residents' quality of life in the neighborhoods? And what's interesting is we haven't had a traffic study done on Walnut Avenue. So we're just blindly closing this, and people say, well, nobody uses it, it's an alley, it's this, it's whatever. That's irresponsible. We need to know what we're doing before we do it. First responders. How are they going to navigate around if the cars are pushed up into the older neighborhoods with narrow streets, parked to the corners, parked on the driveways? Those are old streets. How are they going to navigate around? What are they going to do to get behind Walnut Avenue if something happens back there? So I'm curious about that. What else I got here? The businesses. The other businesses on the west side, some on the east side, you know, they just found out about this. I've had an opportunity to talk to the other businesses, and I really appreciate them taking the time and effort to meet with us. I appreciate it. But they haven't had an opportunity to sit down with elected officials, with staff members, to discuss their concerns. I think we owe them the same courtesy and opportunity to give them the opportunity to do that. So, listen, I understand what you want to do on the east side. I think this is kind of being pushed through. I think it's going to benefit one business, Flagship on the Fox. Nobody else is paying any outdoor dining fees over there except for Flagship on the Fox. So that's kind of my points. So that's all I have.
Other comments?
I have one next.
Alderperson.
Thank you. Well, agreed with what Brian said, but now I'm hearing from two attorneys, I have questions about can we legally do this? And I don't have an answer tonight. I do not have an answer, a written answer to say to either agree or disagree with them. And I'm not saying they're right, don't get me wrong, but I have no way of knowing if they're wrong.
Thank you, Ron. First of all, let me just say that I'm very comfortable with advising you tonight that the city is very broad as a home rule community powers constitutionally and statutorily to enter into these license agreements. You can get into the distinction of whether it's a lease or license, and Joe and I can have that conversation, believe me, but I am not concerned about the legality of the city entering into these license agreements, okay? It's practice that's been conducted that I've done for 40 years in many communities, and I think even one of the attorneys said, we have the authority to do it, and we do. Now, whether or not it makes sense for you to do it and how that impacts some of the comments I've heard tonight, those are different conversations. But I'm not concerned about the city's legal ability to enter into these agreements.
So if we do approve this, then any business can come up and apply to close a public street for any reason.
Well, first of all, it's not a closure of a public street.
Anybody can lease a section of a public street then.
So let me back up. First of all, the question was, are we able to do this legally? The answer is yes.
Oh, right, okay.
And can anyone come up and petition the city to close some other public street, similar to what you did on First Street? And I remember back in the day, in the early 2000s, when we were putting together First Street and closing, that whole... Right. As a matter of fact, I remember we closed Walnut, if I recall, which runs behind all those businesses along 64, if I recall. We shut that down. We vacated that.
You're right.
So, yeah, it's a common practice. We've done it in the city. We've done it routinely. There was a reference to the sidewalk permit section that has been utilized in the city for many years. But this is a standalone license agreement for Walnut on a temporary basis.
Temporary basis, but still, right in the summertime. And to the point about we're going to lose 70-odd spots, that need to be taken into account because they're going to park somewhere. And to the residents' concerns, it's going to be hard to get to, if you live there, it's going to be hard to get to First Riverside if you want to go west. You're not going to go across, Main Street. You're not going to be able to turn west on Main Street. I just have too many issues with this, and I don't want to start a trend where we could get 5, 6 applications to someone to lease a public street. And according to what we're talking about here, we'd have to grant it because we grant it for one person. We'd have a hard time saying no to them if we grant it for this one. So I'm setting a precedent, and I'm not going down that road. Thank you.
All right, do I have other comments?
So,
Go ahead.
a couple of my comments were directed at what was being asked the ADA, and then legally, could we even do it? And it sounds like we kind of got yes answers to both. Looking back kind of over St. Charles in the long-term plan, one thing that I think that really we should be proud of is when you drive up and down Route 64, the businesses on Route 64, we're full. We got businesses all throughout Route 64. And that goes back to when Mayor Klinkhammer was here. And that city council worked very hard to make sure that St. Charles, east to west, was a thriving business community. And I think that was something that sometimes gets lost in all this. And I understand that this is a very, very hot topic. And there's always been hot topics in this town. And sometimes you don't know if it's a good idea. Sometimes until you jump feet first in. I do 100% understand that. And I was here when Prairie Street Bridge was not a good idea to a lot of different people. And a lot of people drive across the Prairie Street Bridge on a consistent basis. And I was here when First Street came about, and people were skeptical of First Street. And I think after you were here over Scarecrow Festival, and if you were here over the Fine Arts Festival, and even over St. Patrick's Day weekend, how wonderful event that is for the whole community. Walkability that young man had the courage to come talk about today is a big part of not just our adult residents, but also of our teenage residents, who sometimes are looking for things to do in town and places to go, and their best way to do that is by bike or to walk sometimes, okay? And I understand the point of view that this might be helping out only one business, and I get that concern. And I looked at the plan they have in place and giving the option of other things to possibly happen here. I think this is, if this does go through, I think this is a good test for a couple areas. Number one, is it worth it? Okay? And what I mean is, are we going to see the foot traffic? Is that, if it is going to benefit the one business, does it really? I think time will tell on that. And I think number two, the main thing we got to look at here is, are you going to be good neighbors? Okay, if that was not the case in those COVID years, I apologize for not knowing that. I apologize for not knowing if there were a number of complaints to the city council at that time, to our police department. I was not a part of that at this time. But one thing I do look at as I sit up here is, as a community, we do need to be good neighbors, and that goes for the businesses if this goes through. You got a trial period to show here you are willing to try and be good neighbors. You will be responsive to their concerns if this goes through in a timely manner, and if that does not happen, and we get to the end of that 100 days of this process, whatever it might be, we can look at it and say, yes, this was good, or no, they were not. And if no, they were not good neighbors, that makes this a very easy decision there moving forward. Like I said, we've had a number of ideas in this town come and go over the years, and we can have arguments back and forth whether they were good ideas or not good ideas. But when we talk about building a community, and we talk about doing our best to help the entire community and to help both sides of the river thrive and be a wonderful business district, I think this is a step in the positive direction. Thank you.
Do you want to go? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, so,
thanks to everybody. All the comments have been great, and being the real newbie up here, just digesting all of that. But a couple of things that I just take away is we look at, and I'm a huge proponent of outdoor dining, and I think this is at least an idea, but I'm just wondering, have other alternatives on the east side of the river been considered other than just this one? The park has been mentioned. That probably doesn't get a lot of use, just throwing that out as an idea. My long-term vision for the city is, I know we don't have the same geography on this east side of the river that we did on the west with First Street, but instead of the east side being kind of the ugly red-haired stepchild, is there something down the road? I hope it doesn't take 20 years, but something else that could accommodate businesses, much to like the conversations we've heard here, to accommodate that, to make it more pedestrian-friendly and bike-friendly. And to what the restaurateurs have said, pedestrian traffic is huge for them. If you don't walk by, you don't know they're there, you don't go in the door. My other thoughts is the impact of maybe doing this on the Fine Arts Festival and the Scarecrow Festival, which use that particular section of Walnut Street for vendors, displays that are also bringing business into the city. And I think that needs to be looked at too before we make any firm decision going forward. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Alderperson Charles.
Sure. Derek, just really quick, Alderman Werbel made a good point, or he commented about the traffic study. Can you, from a staff perspective, one was not done, correct?
Yes, there has not been a traffic study completed.
Good to know. And then in your communication with the applicant, the green space, and I understand looking at this diagram here, the diagonal line there, that's a sidewalk, so I totally understand that. It's not physically touching the pink area with that sidewalk there, but since it's such a tight space there and it's intended to be a community space, have you talked to the applicant, or maybe they can address it on how are there ways that they're going to ensure that it doesn't essentially become a de facto outdoor dining space for a contiguous business rather than being welcoming to everybody?
Yeah, so surely anyone can get food to go and sit out in that green space at any time, whether it's Flagship or Smitty's or wherever. As far as Flagship potentially using that green space, it does say in the agreement that they are not allowed to expand their designated area. If they are somehow passing food over the fence or serving people out there, I would consider that a violation of the agreement, and we would have the right to basically take it away. So I think it would be very foolish of them to attempt that just for a few more seats, and that would be something that the city would have to police.
Okay. You know, in general, I mean, my colleague, I'm hearing a lot of great comments, and my colleagues have made a bunch as well. In general, I'm in agreement that my position really hasn't changed in a year from this when we talked about this, deja vu a year ago. That we did have sidewalk opportunities that I think went pretty well per our ordinance. I also want to thank the attorneys that spoke, because some of these considerations I had not thought of. And, we did receive, we all have seen this, a message from some businesses downtown already requesting the closure of other streets. So when I saw that, I immediately thought, oh man, the can of worms is opening. So I'm a little concerned about that. I don't, once the Pandora's box is open, it's kind of hard to close it. Once the genie's out, it's hard to put the genie back in, whatever metaphor you want to use. In general, I think we need to, I think at the very least, and if I heard you correctly, Bob, were you saying like a hold? You were...
I just, if hold's the right term, and I don't want to speak out of turn by anything, but looking at other alternatives to the space around there. I mentioned the park. Pollyanna, that was just approved earlier, is using part of the city parking lot, which is already there. Is there a portion of the parking lot to the east of Flagship that could be used? Are there other alternatives other than just this one to make a good decision for the whole of the community? That's what I'm looking for.
So I appreciate that too, and I'll just end with, at the end of the day, you know, when push comes to shove, I also have to, I see a lot of my constituents here, and I honor their and respect their opinions. So at the end of the day, I have to listen to them, and I hear what you have to say, and I do agree with you. So I think if we can have a little bit more discussion, perhaps that's prudent. We might, to Alderman Warble's point, the speediness and the speed of this decision seems too fast for me. I think at the very least, let's hit the brakes. So.
Chair, can I just address the alternative?
No, absolutely. Address any of those that you need to, and then Alderperson Williams.
So, has other alternatives been discussed? Yeah. I mean, there are other options that are out there that have been discussed. I know I've heard Riverside as well come up. One of the big concerns with closing down Riverside is that it's currently how our fire department would get access to that corridor. Not to say something there is impossible. It's just a little harder to accommodate that request. As far as, you know, looking at other alternatives, we're a month away from where outdoor dining is going to start. April 15th is right around the corner. So we would not make that deadline if we were to start from scratch and entertain some type of other alternative. What you're looking at, honestly, is something that's been worked on for probably 10 weeks or more. So.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you, Derek. That's why I said just other alternatives to take a look at.
Alderperson Williams.
Thank you. So I've talked to a lot of people in the community, and I've captured some thoughts that I want to touch on, and I made a lot of notes, so you'll have to excuse me looking at my notebook here. You know, first I'd like to just start by addressing one comment that was just made, and that's opening a can of worms or Pandora's box, and I feel like that was already done on First Street. I don't know, Derek, if you can speak to it or not without preparation, but how many streets were vacated to create all of what happened on First Street? At least two.
At least two.
Yeah. So those were actually vacated, but here we're just asking for a temporary lease for outdoor dining and then creating public space with the rest of it. So we're not asking for any kind of a vacation of a street here. But I think that, you know, a vibrant, active downtown where businesses are thriving is a really positive thing, and that's what's happening in our downtown. And the more people you have walking around, the more you're going to see that. The temporary nature of this, I think, also gives us an opportunity to learn from how that works, what does work, what doesn't work, how it does or doesn't affect the community around it. And allowing people to learn from that. And I know that the change is really hard for anybody. This is a community that is very, very attached to the things that they know, and it's difficult to see things being different. I really want to thank everybody that wrote letters, both in favor and against, because I know that it's not something that everybody always does. I thank everyone that came up and spoke, especially James. I know that this is not an easy thing to do. So, you know, being engaged in this process is really important. And I have taken every letter and read every letter. I have listened to what everybody has had to say, and I appreciate that everybody's giving their input. I think that what we can't continue to do is accommodate more cars than people, because it's the people that make our community. So if we're just going to continue to drive by each other instead of interacting with each other in public spaces, it's not going to make our community better. And just not to pick on any one particular person, and I apologize, but the attorney, Mr. McMahon, mentioned that we have plenty of outdoor parks. I don't think that adding more public space where people can interact is a negative thing, and I'd like to see this in action to see maybe if we can prove that this is a good option. So those are my comments.
All right, I'm going to make a couple comments here. So when this last happened, I was the chairman of the Planning and Development Committee, and I was the deciding vote to not close down Walnut, because I still feel like closing down Walnut is not the right thing to do for the city. Now, I am a fan of outdoor dining 100%, and I want all of our businesses to be very viable, very profitable. I want everybody to win. with that being said, I would like, because this is a big city decision, I would like to at least give us one more month, and I would like to be a liaison to talk to all the business owners because the first time I heard about the plan was on February 9th. So that was basically 30 days ago. I would, and I made my feelings clear at the meeting, what I felt like would be the best opportunity for outdoor dining, and I still don't feel like Walnut is the best that the city can do. I don't think that it appears that it'll only benefit one business. Obviously, we have multiple other business owners speaking, so I feel like that was a little bit, geared towards the owner flagship when there's other people that are supporting that. The grass across the street is not a public park. I believe that's privately owned. But I would like to, obviously other people are going to speak, but I would like to make a motion to table this for 1 month, just out of respect for everything that's going on here, to give us 1 month to have pause, to get some of these questions answered. I think it's the responsible thing to do. I would like to see how the closing of the parking lot affects things in the city. Like I said, this is a big decision. All I would ask is 1 more month so we can just do a little bit more homework on it.
Hang on, Alderperson Weber, you discussed making a motion strictly by Robert's rules. You can't speak on something and make a motion. Let's have that discussion. But without speaking, if you want to make that motion, then that motion would be considered by the body. Why don't we get through discussion? Yep. But if that's what you want to do, I encourage you, and I will find back to you so you can make that motion if that's what you care to do. Okay. Thank you. I have a couple comments, and being the chairman, I'm not voting today, but there are a couple of things that I do think are important to talk about. And one of those is the responsibility of city council. All of us up here as city council people, I do have a problem when I hear you're like, well, what's the next thing we have to do? First of all, it is always our decision, and they're difficult decisions, to decide based on, what your residents are saying, your background, your analysis, your specific, whatever those special qualities that helped you get into this seat of responsibility. We have difficult decisions to make. At no point do we do anything except should be making decisions about what is in the absolute best interest of our city. And those are always difficult decisions. So saying that once we do one thing, that, well, what happens after that? I don't like that argument very much. We are always going to have to make difficult decisions. So, whatever decision we make today, we're a home rule community, and that doesn't tie us to decisions in the future, but I hope we're bound by making good decisions. But to say, once we do this, well, then it's all over, that's not the case. Second, I will say, from my perspective, although I'm not voting on this, I've heard a couple arguments that don't really make sense to me, and one of those is, nobody talked about parking spots for Pollyanna without even a thought. We used space in Pollyanna not dissimilar to this, that had parking spots on it. So we're saying that those parking spots are different than this. I know. And we've heard about, we've heard from attorneys representing businesses that have the same deal. Like I heard about businesses that are in leasing agreements for public land on the plaza. And one of the things that I always have to think of in considering this is, what's the most valuable public land that we have? Is Walnut more valuable than the plaza? Because we're allowing, private businesses to exclusively use pieces of that land. Well, I feel like I've heard from the residents, when we were in COVID, we discovered that our residents really want outdoor dining in public spaces, that they absolutely love opportunities to come downtown, and they love to spend time down here, which brings more and more people down here. So as I define these decisions, those are the things that matter a lot to me, but I also don't understand why I'm hearing from businesses that get the same deal saying that this is a fair deal. I'm not saying they don't have a point of view, but I will say that I don't really understand it. I also don't understand why we didn't hear anything about the parking for Pollyanna, and now we're talking about parking, on Walnut. So there's parts of those arguments that don't make sense, and I will say that as a retailer, I've had a lot of experience seeing how, people use public spaces and how those operate. And the more places people can be, the better it is for the utilization of that. So and hopefully we create a public space that will be used by as many businesses as possible, and I hope that they see that this is a great opportunity and that people will come down here. That being said, I appreciate making that argument, but being the chair, it's not my vote tonight. Brian, you were looking for that.
So there were some comments about, let's see if this works, and here's the thing, we did this in the past, and I agreed to do it right at the tail end of COVID. I figured it was the responsible thing to do. And it really didn't work for a lot of the residents that live in the adjacent neighborhoods. They've spoken, they've sent emails, letters, they've spoken in the past. So to think it's going to be a different result, I think is, especially if you're going to attempt to make it some sort of public plaza, where are all the people going to park that want to come and use the public plaza? They're already a struggle to park. So I get it. Listen, here's the thing. I think the conversation should keep going. I think we have should give the other businesses that just found out about this an opportunity and the courtesy to meet with elected officials, have that conversation, hear them out. I think it's the right thing to do. It's part of our strategic plan, community engagement, inclusiveness, and I don't think Steve's tabling of the motion is unreasonable. I think 30 days is reasonable, and I'd like answers on this with the Illinois Accessibility Code. So I'll second the motion on that.
We don't have a motion yet because it was a discussion of a motion. It would need to be made. And by the way, I will also inform you that when you bring that, I'd like to hear motion to postpone definitely to a date. But I also, we have another alderman with us who's on the phone, Alderperson Bongard.
Thank you, Mr.
I want to give you an opportunity for comment.
Sorry. So I appreciate everybody's comments tonight on both sides of the issue. I think it's very, very well thought out. I think that we need to comment first on the recommendation that's on the table recommended by staff. So I would make a motion to approve the temporary closure of Walnut Avenue.
Without speaking, I'll accept that motion. I'm looking for a second.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Could we give council's feedback on this, please, Mr. Chairman?
So,
wait a second, hang on. You know what, I'll allow that.
Well, I was just going to say, even though you have a motion on the floor to approve it, if a motion to table to a date certain is made, that takes precedent without debate.
But we didn't get one because he spoke on it before, so.
I was offering up the opportunity for that motion if it's going to be made.
I would like to make a motion.
Okay, hang on. So with that understanding that it's going to be made because we're kind of doing this friendly, actually, I will hear the priority of the motion to continue.
To a date certain.
So a date certain.
I would like to make a motion to postpone this decision until the April Planning and Development Committee.
What's that date?
April 8th.
So
April 8th.
April
Okay.
8th.
So
I'll second.
okay, and I got a second. I'll take the second from Warball. So would you call a roll on that, please?
Belkida?
yes.
Volk?
No.
Bongard?
No.
Munn?
No.
Gem?
Yes.
Trilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Fester?
No.
Weber?
Yes.
So that motion, I believe, is 5-4
Yes.
to move to postpone definitely for 1 month. So that motion does pass. Well, so that is motion to postpone temporary closure of Walnut. So with that, we have the rest of our agenda has to do with consideration of that. So how about this? It doesn't make sense to go forward with any of this, even including the other. So I would immediately ask if I can get a motion to postpone definitely to the same date for item H, recommendation to approve temporary license between the City of St. Charles and CNA Management.
So moved.
What is that motion by Petrola?
Second.
Second by Wirball. Please call the roll.
Belkida?
Yes.
Volk?
No.
Bongard?
No.
Munn?
No.
Gem?
Yes.
Trilla?
Yes.
Wirball?
Yes.
Fester?
No.
Yes.
That motion passes. So I have Item J, recommendation to approve a temporary license agreement between the City of St. Charles and SDC Arcata LLC. Again, we look for, so motion to postpone definitely to
Second. April 8th.
April 8th. Okay, and I'll take a second from Alderperson Petrella. Please call the roll.
Kulkaitis,
Yes.
Foltz,
No.
Baumgart,
No.
Munt,
No.
Gem,
Yes.
Petrilla,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Lester,
No.
Weber.
Yes.
That motion passes as well. All right, thank you all for coming. We have postponed until April 8th, so we will be back on that agenda.
We're not adjourned,
So hang on,
we're not adjourned yet.
We're still meeting. So if people are leaving, please leave in an orderly fashion or wait for additional comment at the end of the meeting.
Oh, yeah.
But if there's discussion to be had, if you guys can, because we have to conduct the meeting, the business of this meeting. All right, but with that, we're actually just at public comment. Is there anybody, Brian, is there anybody with additional public comment for any reason whatsoever? I'm gonna close this quick because we've talked, all of us, a lot today. Seeing none, comments from staff or elected officials?
I have one question.
Yes.
I have one question for
Alderperson
staff as a comment. I just want to know, and then you can get back to me on this question, but based on Mr. Ketter's question, what is the lease agreement or cost that is associated with what Baker uses to park vehicles on Main Street? If you don't know, it's okay. You can get back to me. I just want to make that question public comment, so if someone can answer that, that would be great. That's all I had.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second. Okay, so, moved by Petrella, second by Gem. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.